Okay, yesterday we have seen a custom settings, and in that we have explained a list custom setting. And when we have a list custom setting, and when we have some data, how to get the data without a socket query that we're going to see. So list custom settings methods. So one is a um, get all, where the return type is a map. So map of string comma custom setting API name in the get all method. Similarly, we have a get instance is one. We can get the single record from the custom setting using the name. And then what else has a get values. So this is also exactly same as this one. Let's try about all these three methods, and then I'll say the hierarchical. So file new Apex class. Custom settings example. Here, let's say we have public alright, just custom methods. So first one is a get all method. So what is the custom setting name that we had? Something called triggers, right? Trigger flag or something. It's in the custom settings. For the navigation, a setup, custom code, and custom settings. So here you have, this is what custom setting name. The API name is a trigger flag. So the output will be for a get all method, map of string comma all trigger flags equal to get all. So this how we'll get all these methods. And the next method is a get instance. This will be a trigger, a single trigger flag. So I would like to see account flag, for example. The scenario, get instance, so account, or we would like to see for a project. project flag. So once we have, let's put some system debugs to see whether we're getting the right values or not. So account flag, when we have the account flag, right account flag, just I will doing adding a system debug so that we can print and see the values. And similarly, I'll give one debug for here to see all trigger flags. Okay. Now, what is the other method we have? Get values. So get values will be exactly same as a get instance, but we have one more method for it. So instead of get instance, you will be having a get values. So it's a flag value. Now let's execute this method and see how the output is being there. And this is a static method I gave or normal method, static method. So if we directly call the method using a class name, then we're going to see the output. Execute. Then I need to open the debug logs. M1C debug. So here we see it's account flag. We see only the account related information. That's it. So name is account, next is project, next is account, next is product. So we did this is for a get instance and this is a get values. So using the two methods, we can get a single records. Whereas the top one is using a get all methods and where the key would be your name of the record. So key is name equal to your record, all the values from that custom setting. There if you observe in the custom setting, we don't have any owner ID and we're not having any sharing concept in a custom settings. So we don't have the owner ID in custom settings records. So no concept of the sharing of the records. So even though they are similar to the normal objects, but we don't have any sharing concept in our custom settings. And we cannot deploy these records through the chain set. We cannot deploy the records in the custom settings through chain sets. That is an disadvantage. So even though we have everything like it stores the data in a cache memory and without using a SOQL, we can extract the data and it is super fast. And we have some fields to create. We can create some custom fields as well. But we don't have an option to deploy those. Let's say you have set up some 1,000 or 2,000 values that you set up in a custom setting. You cannot deploy it. So when once you deploy the object, you can only deploy the object fields layout. Only that part only you can do. But you don't have a option to deploy the data. So how we can migrate this data to production? So how we can do is we can do it like a normal object. So if it's normal objects, if you want to move the data to from one hour to other hour, how we will move? First we will extract the data and then we will import the data into the other hour. Similar concept works here. Just we need to export the data from the your development or sandbox org for somehow, and then you will be import using import wizard. So import wizard will not work like a data loader or Workbench. What are the tools that you have for the importing the data that you can import into a Salesforce? Okay, let me try to show you. So along with this object list, you will be seeing the trigger as well, trigger flag. So you see, this is the flag, and just you can what you have that name and some flag is there, right? Active flag. So this is only the object. So if you have 10 or 20 records also, just you can extract and in the bulk CSV, and then you will query and export. And in the next org, you will insert the data with these two values so that it will be migrated to your org. Okay, so that's all for custom setting list custom settings. Now moving on to so before we're moving on to the hierarchical custom setting, any questions you have on this? Hello. We cannot use list settings in formulas. Okay, I take it as no questions. So in the hierarchical custom settings also, it also looks like a custom object, and you will be having a name and a field stored in it. Custom setting stored in application cache memory, not in the database. Retrieving the data from a custom settings are super fast, and we cannot use um so here we can use the hierarchical setting in a formulas where it's saying formula fields. We can use that, and we will not use the tab for the custom setting. We don't have owner ID in the custom setting records. So we cannot deploy this records to the custom setting through the chain sets. All are true. Then why it is a different from a list setting other than a usage in a formula fields? So here in the hierarchical settings, it's not like how many records we want. Let's say in a list setting, like I have two, three, four, there's no limit and it's not dependent on any other. Whereas hierarchical settings, when we have a field and objects and fields, and the data in it will be allocated to anyone. So the data is at three different levels. Okay, one is org defaults. Second is a profile. Third is a user level. That means once you set a value first time, the first value will be a org default value. Org default value, only one record can be given for the object. So what are the object and field that you create for the hierarchical setting? For org defaults, you'll be having only one record, and for each profile, one record max. Either you cannot maintain a record, or at least or max you can maintain only one record. That is optional. And for user also same. You can set up for each user, or it's an optional. Okay, then why we have this kind of a setup? Why? Because so let's say you're having some pricing, so pricing or some kind of a page settings you want to see, and you want to control like if you have some object data, So you want to, based on a profile or based on a user, you want to have a different values in a formula or in any of the custom code that you want to execute. You want to get a different values based on a profile or based on user or a default, or what are the values. Then we can maintain in the hierarchical settings so that we can get those values from this hierarchical custom settings and use in this business use case. And this is also stored in the cache and no sharing and all concepts are applicable. And we cannot deploy the hierarchical settings through the chain sets, the data. So the what all setup that you have, you can like a custom, sorry, the object, fields, layouts, everything that you can deploy. But whatever the data that you are maintaining in the hierarchical settings, that cannot be deployed. Again, you have to follow the same concept of exporting and importing the data to the other org. And coming to the methods that we have in the hierarchical settings are, it could be the same as the, not same, they are the different here. For is the get or defaults. So you will get being only one record. That is you set up at the org level. Second one is a get instance. So in the get instance one, so we'll be passing some string, right? The string will be um, either user ID or a profile ID. Then only the get instance the method will work. I think same as get values also. We have to pass the either user ID or a profile ID you have to use here. Or so in case if in case if you not mentioned, if you not mentioned the ID value, then it depends on the values available, the data will be written. So what it means, let's say you have set up the org default and you have set up some users and some profiles and you logged in. So you logged in. That means you are a user and you have one profile and you are in an org, right? So you have some value set up. That means your user ID who are logged in, the user ID has some value set up in the hierarchical settings. Then if you just use a get instance, that value will be returned. Let's say you don't have a for your user there is no value set up, but for your profile ID there is some value set up. Then it will return a profile ID, what the value set up for your profile ID, that will be returned. And your profile ID also not set up and your user ID also not set up, then it will return the whatever the org default set up in the hierarchical setting, that will be returned. So in the when no value passed to the get instance method, then the return value is based on a data availability and priority. So when defaults comma profile ID comma user ID is setup. Then user ID data will be returned. That is one scenario. And the second scenario is user ID not setup. Then it will return the profile ID. Setup not setup. Our default data will be returned. And the get values also it will apply same as above, but we have two methods. Let's write these three methods and see how the output look like. So any questions we have over there? First of all, we have to create the hierarchical setting, and we need to set up some data, and we need to see how the results are different. Okay, so in the custom settings, let's create a hierarchical setting. My hierarchy settings. My hierarchy settings. And then ready. Save. So on this, I want to set some value. Sorry. Some number value. Call it as a discount. So 2 digits over here and 2 digits over here. Discount. It means as required everything we can do. Then say must have maintain one checkbox whether it's active or not. So I have a this is what so this is what I'm going to have and just I don't have a get all in a hierarchical. Anyway, I'm going to manage, and you will see a bit different UI here when you set up. So if it's a list custom setting, it will be a normal list view. But when you see here, there's a default org level values here, and then set up for the owners. Okay, let's look at a org default values. You're having those two values over here. Whatever the discount discount field, I would say F5 15.25. Let's say, like to say active and save 10 and back to list. And then I have some values for a different profiles and roles. So I have a profile or a user. So if I select a profile as a system administrator, I have some value. As a system administrator, I have a 75. I'll give it active and save. Profile I set some value per profile, and I would like to set for myself. So I logged in, right? So I would like to set for myself. So for the user, and I'd like to see. So this one batch one accepted. Then for the specific user, I have only 2.91. So I give different values for different levels. Okay, done. So each user have a one value. So I would like to add a new list view to see all the locations data. Then I would like to see the name, active, and a discount values. So I would like to see it. It's useful for all users. So what's the location and setup owner and name and active and discount. What are the values over there? Discount and the value for arc default. Now apply all the methods and write, see the output. Okay, so what's the first one? Get arc defaults. So when we get a arc defaults, we are going to get only one value only. So in the hierarchical setting, arc defaults is going to be your API name dot get our defaults. This is the arc defaults one. Similarly, next one is a get instance. Get instance with the profile ID. Okay, so for that, what I need a profile ID, right? How to get a profile ID? So I need to query on the profile first. Profile admin profile equal to select ID comma name profile where name equal to system spell correct or not? So would like to see. Looks like lights. Okay, so let's say limit one. Shush. So here, let's say get instance of a profile dot admin profile dot ID. This one for profile ID, and next one I'd like to see for get instance with a user ID. So how we can get it? Let's say so user values. So here instead of admin user ID, I would say user info dot um, get ID. That ID will have here instead of arg value, let's say profile values, user values. So that's all I have. So just I will add some debugs for everything. Control C. Here I have a arg default values, arg defaults, and then followed by I have profile values, and profile values. I'm going to give a user values. So that's it. So far it is fine. And here, so what it is user info dot get ID is there, right? Option get user ID. Okay. Okay. Get user ID is there. And now let's execute this method and see how the outputs will be. Now I'm going to use a hierarchical custom settings. Let's get highlighter. Okay, so you see the settings for a profile I got, and you can see the discount value and active. So this for profile 10.75 and user it's 2.91 and default is a 5.25. You remember, right? So here you can see setup for arg wise, arg defaults. So the name itself, the arg ID, and the name is saying a profile and it's for a user. Okay, now coming to the other same way, instead of a get instance, we can get the value by using the get values. Also, you can use the same method. So instead of if you use a get values also, you will be getting the same values. So get values with profile, get values with the user ID, get values, and here I would like to use a 1 and 1. Okay, this also I will use. Already we have this piece of code, so yes, I will comment out. Okay, you'll be seeing these two lines and these two lines also exactly same.